Do you look at your kitchen cabinets and feel a particular kind of discouragement? The kind that comes not from not knowing what needs to be done, but from dreading the effort it takes to do it. The greasy film above the stove that you have wiped 3 times this month and that is already back. The sticky residue around the handles that feels as though it is permanently part of the wood. The dull, slightly tacky surface that makes your kitchen feel harder to clean than it should be, no matter how much time you spend on it. I know that feeling well. For years, my kitchen cabinets were my least favorite thing to clean, and I cleaned them badly because of it. I would spray something, scrub hard, decide it was good enough, and come back a week later to find the same grime waiting for me. The problem was not that I was not trying hard enough. The problem was that I was doing it wrong, and doing it wrong made it harder and less effective at the same time. What changed everything for me was understanding what kitchen grease actually is, how it builds up, and what actually works to remove it versus what simply moves it around. Once I understood that, the whole approach to cabinet cleaning changed. The effort decreased significantly. The results became genuinely better, and I stopped dreading this particular part of keeping my kitchen. I want to share everything I've learned from beginning to end, because I think if you are still scrubbing hard and getting mediocre results, there is a better way, and you deserve to know it. First, what is actually on your cabinets and why scrubbing alone does not fix it? Before I get into the method, I want to spend a moment on the problem itself, because understanding it changes how you approach the solution. When you cook on the stove, something happens that is invisible but significant. Tiny particles of hot oil and grease become airborne. They float through the kitchen and settle on every surface nearby, especially the cabinet doors closest to the cooking zone and the area directly above the stove. Over time, these microscopic grease particles combine with household dust, cooking steam, and the moisture that cooking produces. What results is not simply grease and not simply dust, but a compound of both, a sticky, slightly tacky film that has very different properties from either of its components. This film becomes harder to remove as time passes because it cures in a way, becoming more adhesive and less responsive to simple wiping. The reason most people find cabinet cleaning frustrating is that they approach this compound film as though it were ordinary dust or ordinary fresh grease, using either a dry cloth or a single wet wipe, neither of which is adequate for what is actually on the surface. Understanding that you are dealing with something that requires a specific sequence of actions, not just effort, is the first and most important shift. The second thing worth understanding is where the heaviest buildup is in your kitchen. Above the stove and the area immediately surrounding it. This zone sees the most heat and the most airborne grease, and it requires the most attention. Cabinet handles and knobs. These are touched constantly and accumulate grease from hands in addition to cooking, creating a compound of both that is particularly stubborn. Anywhere that faces the sink, water splash mixed with kitchen grease creates its own version of this buildup. When you know where the problem concentrates, you can focus your effort, rather than applying equal attention everywhere and ending up with some areas done well and others not done at all. The first step. Dry before you do anything wet. This is the step that most people skip, and skipping it is why wet cleaning is harder than it needs to be. Before any water or cleaning solution touches your cabinets, you must remove the dry surface layer. The dust, the loose debris, anything that has settled on the surface without becoming attached to it. When you apply moisture to a dusty surface, you create a paste. That paste is significantly harder to remove than the dust was before you wet it, and it smears across the surface rather than lifting off. If you have a pet, the problem is worse. Pet hair that has settled on a cabinet surface becomes almost impossible to remove cleanly once it has been dampened. I use a good quality microfiber cloth, dry, for this first pass. I start at the very top of each cabinet door and work downward, so that anything I displace falls to areas I have not yet addressed, rather than onto surfaces I have already cleaned. For cabinets that have grooves or raised panel designs, I use a soft brush to work into the recessed areas. A vacuum with a brush attachment also works well here, and is particularly good at pulling dust out of decorative grooves without pushing it around. This step takes only a few minutes across an entire kitchen, but the difference it makes to everything that follows is enormous. You are beginning the wet cleaning stage with a surface that is genuinely ready for it, rather than one that is about to turn into a muddy smear. Tell me in the comments, when you clean your kitchen cabinets, do you start dry or do you go straight to wet cleaning? I am asking because I think most people, if they are honest, skip straight to the spray and the cloth, and I want to know whether this step is as widely skipped as I suspect. The cleaning solution: less product, not more. The instinct when facing stubborn grease is to reach for a stronger cleaner. More product, more power, more results. This instinct is understandable and almost entirely wrong. For kitchen cabinets, more product does not produce better results. It produces a residue problem that looks like a cleaning problem. Here's what I have found through many years of cleaning my own kitchen. A small amount of dish soap in warm water is the most effective regular cleaning solution for cabinet surfaces. And the critical word is small. A few drops, perhaps a quarter teaspoon at most, in a full bucket of warm water. The solution should look like faintly soapy water, not like a bucket with visible suds. When you use too much soap, it does not rinse cleanly. It leaves a film that dries sticky, and that sticky film attracts new dust and grease faster than a clean surface would. Many people have experienced this. Their cabinets look clean for 2 or 3 days after washing, then look worse than before. The culprit is almost always soap residue. This diluted dish soap solution, applied correctly, cuts through kitchen grease effectively. It is what I use for regular weekly maintenance and for monthly deeper cleaning. The key is the method, not the product. For particularly stubborn grease that has had weeks or months to cure and harden, I keep 2 additional options ready. A paste of baking soda and water, made thick enough to apply and hold on a surface for a few minutes before gentle scrubbing. Baking soda is mildly abrasive, but does not damage finished wood surfaces, and it works remarkably well on baked-on cooking residue. And a 50-50 mixture of white vinegar and water for the most stubborn, sticky spots. The vinegar loosens the grease effectively, but it must be used sparingly and rinsed away quickly, because vinegar left on wood will damage the finish over time. These are the 2 things I reach for when the dish soap solution is not enough, and together they handle everything short of years of accumulated neglect. Before I continue, a quick word. If you enjoy this channel and want to support my work, just look directly below the video player, right next to the subscribe button, and click the button that says Join. That is how you become a Smart Organizer. Smart Organizers members get exclusive videos, a loyalty badge in the comments, and custom channel emojis. I would love to have you there. The 3-cloth method. The single change that made cabinet cleaning genuinely manageable. This is the heart of what I want to share today, because this is the change that transformed cabinet cleaning from something I dreaded and did badly into something I do efficiently and with good results. It requires nothing you do not already have in your kitchen. 3 claws, clean and ready before you begin. The first cloth is the cleaning cloth. Dip it into your soap solution and wring it thoroughly, and I mean thoroughly. The cloth should be damp, not wet. Excess water on wood cabinet surfaces is one of the more reliable ways to cause damage over time. Wring until the cloth feels damp rather than heavy with moisture. Apply this cloth in gentle circular motions, following the grain of the wood where it is visible. Work one cabinet at a time from top to bottom. Concentrate on the handle areas and around the stove zone. When a cabinet looks clean, you are ready for the second cloth, not for the third. The second cloth is the rinsing cloth. Dipped in plain water, no soap, wrung just as thoroughly. This cloth removes the soap residue. This step is not optional. Skipping it is the source of that sticky, dull finish that returns within days of cleaning. Every pass of the cleaning cloth requires a pass of the rinsing cloth before you move to the next surface. The third cloth is a dry microfiber cloth used to buff and dry the surface. Microfiber is superior for this final step because it lifts moisture and any remaining particles rather than simply pushing them across the surface. This last cloth prevents water spots, brings up the shine of the finish, and lets you see clearly whether any area was missed during the cleaning and rinsing stages. This 3-cloth system requires more preparation than simply grabbing a spray bottle and a single cloth, but it takes no more actual time once you are in motion, because each cloth is doing a specific job efficiently rather than one cloth trying to do 3 jobs poorly. And the results hold for significantly longer because you are genuinely removing the grease rather than partially lifting it and redistributing it. Please subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Every week I share this kind of practical, experience-based guidance for keeping every area of a kitchen clean and maintained with methods that genuinely work. The stubborn spots. What to do when the standard method is not enough. Every kitchen has areas where the grease has had more time and more heat and more accumulation than elsewhere. Above the stove is the most common. The areas around handles that are touched hundreds of times a year. The back corners of the cabinet doors that are somehow always stickier than the rest. For these spots, I add a step between the cleaning cloth and the rinsing cloth. I apply my baking soda paste directly to the problem area and let it sit for 3 to 5 minutes. I do not apply it and scrub immediately. The sitting time matters because it allows the baking soda to begin working on the baked-on residue before any physical effort is applied. After 3 to 5 minutes, I use a soft bristled brush, sometimes an old toothbrush for very small areas, and work the paste in gentle circles with minimal pressure. The point is to let the chemistry do the work rather than the scrubbing. On well-maintained wood finishes, this produces results that hard scrubbing alone would never achieve. And it does so without damaging the surface. For the very stickiest spots, particularly around handles, I apply the vinegar and water mixture first, let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes, then rinse it away completely with my second cloth before applying anything else. Vinegar and baking soda should not be used together, as they neutralize each other and produce nothing useful. The sequence is one or the other, followed by a thorough rinse, not both at once. Tell me in the comments, where in your kitchen does the worst grease buildup tend to accumulate? I ask because I think the answers vary more than people expect, and understanding the specific zones in your kitchen is the first step to addressing them effectively. Inside the cabinets, the cleaning that almost nobody does regularly enough. I want to spend a moment on cabinet interiors because they accumulate grease and dust nearly as much as the exterior surfaces, and they are cleaned far less frequently. Dust settles inside closed cabinets. Cooking steam enters every time a cabinet door is open near the stove. Small spills and drips go unnoticed for months because they are out of sight. The result is an interior that requires real attention when it is finally addressed. I do the interiors one cabinet at a time, never all of them at once, because removing everything from all cabinets simultaneously creates a counter situation that is genuinely chaotic and discouraging. One cabinet, emptied completely, addressed with the same 3-cloth method on all internal surfaces, including the shelves, then refilled thoughtfully before moving to the next. The process of emptying a cabinet is also an excellent moment to do a brief, honest assessment of what is inside. Things that are not being used, duplicates that accumulated over years, items that belong somewhere else. I am not suggesting turning every cabinet cleaning session into a full decluttering project, but the combination of cleaning with a light assessment of what belongs there is a natural fit that makes both activities more worthwhile. After cleaning and before returning items to the shelves, I let the interior dry fully. Returning items to a damp shelf causes its own problems over time, particularly with anything that might rust or with items that sit directly on the shelf surface. The cabinet tops, the zone most people never think about. For kitchens where the cabinets do not extend to the ceiling, the tops of the cabinets are a distinct cleaning challenge that is almost universally neglected. Heat rises when you cook, and it carries grease particles upward with it. The tops of kitchen cabinets can accumulate more grease and dust per square inch than almost any other surface in the kitchen, including the area around the stove. I address the cabinet tops during my seasonal deep clean rather than my regular weekly or monthly maintenance because the access and the intensity required put it in a different category from the regular work. The approach is the same: dry first, then the 3-cloth method with baking soda paste for the areas of heaviest buildup. One small thing I do after cleaning the cabinet tops that has meaningfully reduced how quickly they accumulate. I lay paper towels or sheets of parchment paper across the cleaned surfaces. When these become dirty over the following months, I remove and replace them rather than having to clean the wood surface again. The grease settles onto the paper rather than the wood, and replacing paper is simpler and quicker than cleaning a sticky wood surface. This approach came to me from watching how professionals protect surfaces that are difficult to clean repeatedly, and it has been genuinely worth the small effort it requires. The maintenance schedule: why regular small effort beats occasional large effort every time. I want to end with this because I think it is the most practically important thing I can say about kitchen cabinet cleaning. The difficulty and the time required for any single cleaning session are directly determined by how long it has been since the last one. Grease that has been on a surface for 3 days is infinitely easier to remove than grease that has been there for 3 months. This sounds obvious, and yet most people clean their cabinets once or twice a year and wonder why it takes so long and why it is so hard. My kitchen cabinet routine has 3 levels. Once a week, a very quick pass with a damp microfiber cloth over the cabinet fronts and handles. This takes perhaps 5 minutes for the whole kitchen and removes the fresh accumulation before it has any time to harden into something more demanding. Once a month, the full 3-cloth treatment on all exterior surfaces with proper attention to the zones of heaviest buildup. This takes about 30 minutes and keeps the cabinets in genuinely good condition. Once a season, the complete process: exteriors, interiors, drawer interiors, and cabinet tops. The weekly 5 minutes is the most important of the 3. It is what makes the monthly cleaning fast and the seasonal cleaning manageable rather than a project that leaves you tired for the rest of the day. Cleaning is almost always more effective when it is done immediately rather than accumulated, and nowhere is this truer than with kitchen grease. I want to hear from you now. In the comments, tell me which part of your cabinet cleaning has been the most frustrating, or which step in what I have described you think will make the biggest difference for you. I find these specific questions produce the most useful conversations, and I read every single comment. And please subscribe if you are not yet subscribed. Every week I share what I have learned about keeping a kitchen and a home genuinely clean rather than just periodically cleaned, from decades of living in and tending a house that I care about deeply. I will see you next week.